really just to hand over to the first of the speakers, who is going to start off with an introduction to the latest special edition of our journal, Environmental Scientist, that you may have seen. There are certainly copies in the lobby, addressing the theme of the uptake of emerging science into strategic planning. So I'll hand you on to John Reynolds of SAMI Consulting, who worked with me in producing it.
Thank you very much, Mark, and good evening to you all. This is the journal that Mark was talking about, the special edition of the Environmental Scientist, which is being launched today. There are copies outside, and if any of you want an electronic version, it's on our website, and it is also on the institution's website. So please download that. So that is what I'm just going to say a few words about. Literally a few words. And what this is about, it's I say a special edition that gives some of the background on a project we did, funded by the Environment Agency, and it was very much a collaborative project. There was the agency was very actively involved in it under Mark. There was Cure with Joe Ravitz, who's here, and my colleague Martin Duckworth from SAMI. And the object of this was to help shape the agency's corporate strategy. But we firmly believe that when we're doing work, particularly publicly funded work, the broader use that can be got from that, and if it can be published, all the better. And so I'd encourage you to get a copy of this, and please feel free to use it in whatever way you want. The journal talks about these issues here. One thing that's not in there is the impact of climate change, because that was being dealt with through another stream. It also talks about some of the drivers of change, and also the use of scenarios in terms of testing and developing strategy and policies. So that's what's in it. The heart of the project was really looking at drivers of change, looking at that external environment and how that would affect what the agency needs to be doing in the future. And we started off with 100 drivers, which were all sort of fully researched and documented, and that went down to 20 key drivers that were fed into the agency's strategic planning process. And I think of those, probably the biggest ones were clearly the global environmental agenda, all that's going on in that front. The credit crunch, which when we started this project was sort of the green shoots of it, starting rather than finishing. And I think everything that's happened since then has reinforced that as a critical issue. Another one, public attitudes, both in terms of their attitudes but also their expectations is a big issue for the agency. And obviously on technology, we felt the key ones were pervasive ICT, think to think, whatever you want to call that, is really embedded communication and intelligence across a whole spectrum of things. And we felt that that has a profound impact on both the work the agency does and how they manage it, but also how we as citizens can gain knowledge and use that and interact with the agency and others. And in terms of biotechnology, well, there's a revolution going on there, which is quite profound, and that is obviously an important aspect. In terms of observation, having completed the work, and I must stress, these are my thoughts, they're in no way a sort of reflection or comment on the agency's strategy, but some of the things that we found were actually critical for the success of the agency was, first of all, an ecosystem service approach, including the societal and economic benefits, has to be at the heart of the strategy. But without that, it's really not going to succeed. We also felt that scanning for future technology, and actually broader changes as well, was actually vital. It's essential that the work that they do and the regulations they have are not responsive, that they are anticipating the future change. And on the broader regulatory front, we felt that using new methods, including market methods, are actually quite important in terms of trying to achieve their objectives. Also engaging with the citizens and the community. I think if you go back into the past in terms of the agency, it was is very much a dialogue between government and business, between us and the regulators. It's vital now that there's a much broader dialogue on things of areas like flooding and so on, where it's absolutely essential. And finally, we are entering a period of tremendous uncertainty, and it's all too easy to be driven by the official view of the future. And so I think using scenarios to both develop your strategy and also test it is also important. So those are what we felt in terms of the observations. And finally, I'd just like to say a few words of thanks. First of all, to Mark, who was the project manager for this work in the agency. And I think, if I spare his blushes for a moment, he created an environment which was collaborative between all the parties, including us and the agency, obviously, very creative, but also driven by very robust evidence and science. And I think that he was, in that respect, a model for that sort of project. I'd also like to thank the institution for publishing the work. I think it's very useful to be able to get this out through them. So thank you, Adam, and your colleagues for that. And also thank them for giving us the opportunity to support this evening's lecture. It is the 20th anniversary this month of the founding of SAMI by Shell and the University of St Andrews. And I think tonight, given the topic it's on, is a very fitting way to help celebrate that. So thank you very much, Adam, for giving us that opportunity.